the signifier and the signified. The signifier is the sound pattern and the signified is the meaning conveyed through that word or through that sound. Say for example, you know the sign cat. You know it has a sound pattern, and when you talk about the sound pattern of this word cat, then you have two or three sounds. K ka sound is there, T ta sound is there, then a. If you make phonetic transcription of the word, then you can use three sounds in this word. So that is the sound pattern, right? So this sound pattern is the signifier, right? So the signifier is the sound pattern of that word and the meaning that is evoked or that is conveyed by that sound pattern or by that word, that is the signified. And what is the meaning? The meaning conveyed through that word is a furry animal, a furry four-legged animal, that is cat. So again, try to understand. This theory is basically based on, the concepts of the sign, the signifier, and the signified. And Saussure feels that every linguistic sign has two parts, the signifier and the signified. The signifier is the sound pattern, and the signified is the meaning conveyed through that sound pattern. And that is moreover, it's more a mental perception. The moment you hear a word dog, automatically there'll be an image in your mind, and this will be the image of a four-legged animal that looks like a fox. So the first thing is the mental perception. So mind plays a decisive role, in the world of structuralism. But here we are talking about the signifier and the signified. So the signifier is the sound pattern and the signified is the meaning conveyed through this sound or conveyed through this sign or conveyed through this word. Say for example, the sign cat. It is made up of a sound pattern, that is K sound, ta sound, and a sound, cat. If you make a phonetic transcription, you can get it, right? And the meaning that is conveyed through this sound, this would be, a small furry animal, four-legged animal, that is cat. Now, what is particular here? The particular thing here is that the relationship between the signifier and the signified is only arbitrary, not actual. The relationship between the signifier and the signified is arbitrary, not actual. What does it mean? It simply means that there is no logic why a four-legged furry animal should be called a dog or a cat or a fox or a lion. There is no logic behind it. At the same time, there is no logic behind the fact why a wooden structure should be called a table or a desk or anything else. So, the relationship between the signifier and the signified is only arbitrary, and it is conventional, not actual, not real. Fine. Actually, before Saussure, words and the meanings they denoted, uh, they were thought to have a direct relationship. How? Let me clarify. See, for example, the word tree. It basically denoted a physical tree in the real world. Getting my point? Before Saussure. So again, let me clarify. Before Saussure, words and the things they conveyed, or you just can say the sounds and the meanings those sounds conveyed, you know they basically thought to have a direct relationship. How? I'm just trying to clarify it with the help of an example of a tree. See, the word tree, before Saussure, this sound tree or this word tree, it denoted a physical tree in the real world, right? So the word tree meant an actual tree or a physical entity. That was before Saussure. But Saussure, he did not agree with this interpretation, and he did not agree with this point. He basically realized that this is not the way how language works. Language works in a different way, right? To him, any word or sound like tree, this tree, it is a word, and tree is a sound also. See, you can write the word tree, T-R-E-E, tree. At the same time, it has some sound pattern also. Right. So to Saussure, the word or sound tree, it represents a mental image. Getting my point? So to Saussure, this word or this sound tree, it represents a mental image or a concept of a tree rather than a real tree. I hope you are getting my point. Again, I repeat it. I'm
Yes,
trying to
sir.
simplify it. See, before Saussure, the words and the things they denoted, or the meanings those words denoted, they were supposed to have a direct relationship. How? Say, for example, the word tree, it denoted a physical tree which you can see with some branches, with some twigs, with stems, root, and different things. Means this word tree, it denoted a physical tree in the real world. Right? So the word tree, it meant an actual tree, a physical entity, a living entity. But Saussure, he did not agree with this point of view. Actually, he feels that this is not the way how language works. To him, this word or sound tree, it represents a mental image or a concept of a tree rather than a real tree. Why? The reason is that because language is a property of mind. Language is a property of mind, and language, it permits us to understand and decode the word through a system of signs. Through a system of sign, S-I-G-N, sign. That simply means words plus concept. Getting my point? Again, I'm trying to clarify it. See, if you hear a word tree, so there'll be a mental image in your mind, and this mind will send a message to your heart or to something else, and then you'll be able to recognize this particular thing, and then you'll be able to write it on the page. So the first thing is the mental perception. The real things are imaginary somehow, which Plato also said in Platonism. So to Saussure, it is more a mental perception. First, it is a mental perception, and then it takes a real shape. Right? So he's trying to say that when we hear the word tree, we imagine a tree. And this tree is a mental image of a real tree. I repeat, he says that when we hear the word tree, we imagine a tree in mind, and this tree is a mental image of a real, tree. So it simply means that mind makes meaning out of the world. Mind makes meaning out of the world. Say, for example, if something is not visible before you, even then you can recognize it with the help of mental perception. Suppose you hear the word rock. Right now, the rocks are not before you, but automatically there'll be a picture in your mind, and this picture will be that of rocks. So, in your mind, you can imagine the picture of rocks or the picture of mountains. So, the first picture is the mental picture, and then it takes the real shape. So sure he made some changes. So before so sure, the words and the meanings they conveyed, they had direct relationship. Before so sure, a tree meant a real tree, a physical tree, something real entity. A rock meant a real rock, a real mountain, a physical entity. But Sosho felt that this is not the way how language works. Language basically it allows us to have meanings. Getting my point? To him, sounds or words, they represent a mental image or a concept of different things. Fine. Because language is a property of mind. And language, it permits us to understand and decode the word through a system of sign, S-I-G-N, sign. That means word plus concept. So when we hear the word tree or when we hear the word rock, we imagine a tree or a rock. So this tree or this rock is a mental image of a real tree or a real rock because mind makes meanings out of word. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sure, sure. So the first perception is the mental perception. Getting my point? So the sign, the
Yes, sir.
signifier, and the signified. The three terms are clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now try to understand. See, then Saussure, he used three more terms, and these three more terms are very particular. What are the three terms? Language, langue, and parole. Language, langue, and parole. I hope you all are familiar with what language is. Language
Yes,
is,
Yes, sir.
this is a capacity for speech. Language, when you talk about language, you can define it in so many ways. But the common thing is that language, this is the potential of human beings for speech, for discourses, for, using words, right? So, language, you just can say this is human potential for speech. Fine. Then, long. Long basically means, this is a potential. Long is basically, the system that we use in order to generate language. Now, language, we use it through a system. I mean, there is a system that generates language. Say, for example, the phonological system. And when you talk about the phonological system, we just come to know how we perceive different sounds, how then we react to different meanings, to different sounds, how different sounds are perceived by our ears, and how the sounds are modified before they come out of our lips, which are the organs which play a crucial role in the modification of different sounds. What is the position of lips, the position of tongue? I mean, we talk about so many things. I mean, organs of speech, phonological system, phonatory system, you just can say, right? So what is lung? Lung is the system through which, we generate discourse or we generate discourses, right? Then parole. Parole is basically individual utterance or speech. Whatever you say individually as one human being, that is parole. It is absolutely individual. Clear?
so
Yes,
please
sir.
clarify the point about parole.
Okay, let me give some examples. I think with the help of different examples, you can understand. See, the first thing is that language, when you talk about language, language is our potential for speech, our capability for speech, right? The lung. Lung is the system that we use in order to generate discourse or discourses. Say, for example, phonological system. When you go through the organs of speech, there you come to know about the phonatory system. And in the phonatory system, we just come to know how we perceive different words, how we react to different sounds, how sounds are perceived by our ears, and how different sounds are modified before they come out of our lips. So that is the subject matter of the phonatory system. I hope you all are familiar with it. I hope you all might have gone through the organs of speech, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
what is lung? Lung is the system. System. See, structuralism is about system basically. It is about a structure basically. So long is the system that we use in order to generate discourse or discourses. Then parole. Parole is individual utterance. Parole is individual speech, speech of one single person. See, long is a system and parole is a part of that system. Getting my point? Say for example, I gave you, one sentence, I love to play cricket. So this is long because here a structure is working and here one single word can be parole. Say for example, I can ask you, which game do you like very much? You can say cricket. Cricket. So that is your individual utterance, parole. Let me use more examples. See, Uh, let us try to understand the three terms. As the terms have been used by Ferdinand de Saussure, right? And I have told you that the three terms, language, langue, and parole. The three terms have been used by Saussure when he delivered his lectures to the students of Geneva University between 1906 to 1911. And I also told you that Saussure died before compiling these lectures, right? And later critics, used these three terms as the base of structuralism or in different contexts, right? So first, let us focus on language, langue, and parole. I hope language is clear to all of you. So let us try to understand the difference between langue and parole. So the first thing is that langue, it is basically the system that we use to generate any discourse or discourses, right? And parole is basically individual utterance or this is individual speech, right? See, by long, so sure basically meant any language as a system or a structure that is complete and independent. Now, any language means it may be Greek language, it may be English language, it may be Sanskrit language, it may be Urdu language, German, French, any. So by lang, so sure basically meant any language of the world which works as a system or as a structure that is complete and independent. So when you talk about Greek language, it in itself is complete and independent. It does not depend on British language. It does not depend on the French language, right? So by long, so sure meant any language as a structure means any language that works, that functions as a structure or as a system that is complete and independent. Then by parole, so sure meant that use of language by we people, by me, by you, by each of you. So one is the structure, the other is the use of that language by one individual person. So long is the structure, parole is the individual utterance. So by parole, so sure meant the use of language by each of us. So what does it mean? It simply means that parole is dependent on long. Are you getting the point?
Yes, sir.
Parole is dependent on long. Long is not dependent on parole, but parole is dependent on long because long is a kind of structure. This is the system or the structure that we use in order to generate speech or discourses. And parole is the individual utterance, right? So the simple fact is that parole is dependent on long. Parole is dependent on lang. Now again let me use one example. Uh, Suppose we listen to a word in Greek language. And Greek language, it's neither a mother tongue nor it is taught in the Indian classrooms. I mean, it is an alien language to most of us. We can't read any word in Greek language and we can't understand it. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Suppose we listen to a word in Greek language which we don't understand and which we don't know because Greek is an alien language to us. It's not our mother tongue and it is not taught to us in our classrooms. Now, Greek as a long means structure or system. When we talk about Greek language as a long, it means it has a structure, it has a system. So this Greek as a long, it remains intact, whether we understand it or not. I hope you are getting the point. So if we do not understand Greek language, it makes no difference on Greek language. The Greek language as a structure would remain intact, complete, independent in itself. I repeat again. Suppose we listen to a word in Greek language which we do not understand or we do not know because Greek is an alien language to we people. We don't have any knowledge of Greek language. We can't even read a word in Greek language. Now, Greek as a long means as a structure, as a system. It remains intact whether we understand it or not. However, we will have to depend on Greek as a long. Why? In order to be able to use it as a parole. If you want to use it as a parole, if you want to use any single word of Greek language for this, you need to remain dependent on Greek as a long. That means structure, that means as a system. Means you will have to learn something about the structure of the Greek language, about the system of that Greek language. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
See,
Yes,
a
sir.
bit, it's purely technical. So please use your minds, open the cells of your minds. Only then you can understand it, otherwise, it is useless. That's why I wanted to teach it in the classroom. Had you been in the classroom at this time, I think the things would have been uh, easier for you. Anyways, I'm trying my best to simplify the facts. Language is clear to all of you. This is a potential for speech. The main problem is that of understanding long and parole. Long is the system that we use to generate discourse or discourses. Parole is individual utterance. And this parole is dependent on long because long is a system. Long denotes a structure. An individual utterance would remain dependent on some structure. And the example may be that of Greek language or that of French language. Suppose we listen to a word in Greek language or French language. Both the languages are alien to we people. We can't read even a single word in Greek language or in French language because these have not been our mother tongues and these are not taught to us in our classrooms. Right? But what is the fact? The fact is that Greek as a long, as a structure, as a system remains intact, complete, whether we understand it or not. I mean, will be affected. Greek as a language will not be affected. Its system will remain intact. Its structure will remain intact. Right? But if we want to use it as a parole, as an individual utterance, if we want to speak a word in Greek language, if we want to understand any word in Greek language, then we will have to remain dependent on Greek as a long. Means we need to understand this system or this structure. Again, let me give you more examples. Uh, Let us use two words, bitter and sweet. See, we understand the word bitter only because we understand the word, which one?
Sweet.
Sweet.
Very sweet, sweet. So you can know the meaning of bitter if you know the meaning of sweet. If you don't know the meaning of sweet, you can't know the meaning of bitter. This is not like cramming something in the second class or in the 10th class. Here you are going through literature, the uses of literature. So you have to be metaphorical, you have to literary in the use of your words. Right? Okay, so we understand the word bitter only because we understand the word sweet. Now try to understand both the words. They are part of lang. Means, both are getting meaning in a structure or in a kind of relationship. Structuralism is about relationship. So there is a relationship between bitter and sweet, and that is in binary opposition. Right? So we understand the word bitter just because we understand the word sweet. And both these words, bitter and sweet, they are part of lang means system. It means structure. Because both give meaning or both denote meaning in a structure or in a relationship. If you do not find any relationship between the two, if you do not find a kind of structure between the two, structural relationship between the two, then you cannot have metaphorical meaning. You can have just simple meaning, not metaphorical meaning. Right? So bitter is bitter because it is not sweet. And the word bitter is having meaning from sweet, and sweet is having meaning from bitter, though one part has been marginalized here that you will go through in deconstruction. Sweet is, having an edge over bitter, and bitter has been marginalized here. But the important fact is that the word sweet, that is having the upper hand, it cannot have its meaning without the word bitter. For its meaning, it will always remain dependent on the word bitter. समझ में आ रहा है तुम्हें?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
यार
We are
मेरा सर
getting, sir.
दर्द हो रहा है, मुझे तो यही नहीं पता तुम समझ रहे हो या नहीं समझ रहे हो। मैं
No,
अब
sir. We are getting, sir. We are getting.
No,
We
sir,
are
we
getting
are.
Getting.
clearly.
Yes, sir. We are here, sir. Sir, for example, if we understand it by another example, Langen-Perron, it is a kind of, for
let
example,
me
we say that,
let me complete it. I have some more examples, then you ask questions, right?
Okay, sir.
okay, sir.
The picture is not complete yet. So we understand the word bitter only because we understand the word sweet. Why? Because both words are part of lang, means they both give meaning in a structure or in a relationship. Now our understanding of bitter is parole, that is individual utterance. Our understanding of the word bitter is parole, that is individual utterance. When you talk about both the words, then they are the part of lang, that is a structure. Right? Again, let me tell you, uh, before Saussure, I mean Saussure died untimely, and that's why his lectures were not compiled by him, and critics later used these terms, which terms long and parole, in different contexts, like cultural context, like religious context, like mythological context, and historical context. Say, for example, David Lodge. If you remember, he found structure in cultural phenomena, and here his range was from poems to menus. I mean, he found such structures menus, when you go to any restaurant. So in a menu also he finds some structure. He finds such structures in myths. He finds such structures in advertisements also, right? And if you talk about Vladimir Prop, he found such structures in folk tales, right? And if you remember Rolla Barthes, he found such structure in clothes also. Like he said that even clothes have a kind of grammar that he calls by vestment record. How? See, can you wear the shoes on your head and cap on your feet? Is it possible?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No. So even your dressing sense has a grammar. It has a structure. A system is there, bhai.
Yes, sir.
You cannot wear your shoes on your head and cap on your feet, and you cannot tie your tie to your backside. It will come just to the central part of your chest, right? So everything has a structure. And Levi Strauss, he found structures in games, in foods, in myths, everywhere he found this structure. So what I am trying to tell you. So sure, he basically used these terms, long parole and this structural system, but before compiling his lectures, he died. And later, different critics used these terms, according to their own convenience. Means they used these terms in cultural context, in religious context, in mythological context, and in historical context. As I have given you example, David Lodge, he found structure in different cultural phenomena. Like, he found such structures in poems, he found such structures in menus also, he found such structures in restaurant, and he found such structures in myths also. And Vladimir Prop, he found such structures in folk tales. And Levi Strauss, as I have just told you, he found such structures in sports and games, foods, and habits also. And Roland Barthes, he found such structures in clothes also, in your dressing sense also, right? Now, I'm giving you one more example of these long and parole, and this is a mythological example. Have you gone through the poem Leda and the Swan?
Yes, sir. By W.B. Yeats.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. So, what is mandatory to understand this poem? One is the metrical structure in the poem. But what is beyond the metrical structure?
Understanding of mythology.
Absolutely right. Now you are on the point. I'm really happy. So one is the metrical structure to understand the poem, but there is something beyond this metrical structure also. And what is that? You need to understand the Greek myth, like who was Leda, who was Swan, who was Zeus, why did Zeus take the form of a swan, and why did an immortal rape a mortal? This is a big question. So if you don't have the knowledge of these facts, I mean, if you don't have answers to these questions, which questions? Who was leader? Who was swan? Why did a god, the chief god in the Greek mythology, why did he take the form of a swan? What was the need? And why did an immortal rape a mortal? That also on the earth. So if you cannot give answer to these questions, then your reading of the poem is useless.
Senseless.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let it be senseless. I do agree with you. I'm not saying useless. Let it be senseless. Not a problem. So, what I'm trying to say is that beyond metrical pattern, we need to know the Greek mythology, like who was Leda, who was Zeus, who was Swan, why did Zeus rape a mortal? So what I'm trying to say is that this poem can't make any sense if we don't find answers to these questions, right? So here, now try to understand. The Greek mythology, it is working like long structure system, right? So here, this Greek mythology, it is working like a long, means structure, system. And the rape of Leda, it is working like parole. I hope now things have become quite clear to you. So parole is the individual utterance. Parole is a part of system, structure. So here, I mean, as I have told you the story, I have not told you the story of Leda and Sven. Rather, I have given you the example of the story of Leda and Swan. So here, Greek mythology, it works like a structure. It works like a system. Different things combining together give way to this Greek myth, and we can find an answer to the question of the rape of Leda. So here Greek myth, it is working like a long, and the rape of leader, that is parole. That is individual utterance. Now each of you can give a different answer to the question. Which question? Why did Jews rape leader? But for your answer, you will have to remain absolutely dependent on the Greek myth that here is working like a long, means structure or a system. Is it or not? You all will be giving different answers to the question. Which question? Why did Zeus, the chief god in the Greek mythology, rape Leda? So now difference between long and parole is clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me,
Clear
sir.
to all of you now?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
Hello.
Someone is trying to ask something. Yes, yes, yes.
So you said that the sentence or the phrase "the rape of the Leda" is parole.
Yes.
You mean the act of utterance is parole.
Yes.
The act of utterance, like the rape of Leda, is parole.
Yes. Yes. Why? Because you can call it rape. Someone can call it, a cause. Now, you will have to go again to the deep structure. In order to find an answer to this question, you need to analyze the complete Greek myth. Now, the real thing is that, at one point of time, Zeus, he felt that by creating this creation, he committed a mistake. The earth became overpopulated, it became corrupt, the people became individualistic, and they did not try to follow the rules and regulations set up by the great master, that is Zeus himself, right? So he tried to destroy the earth. And for this, he chose a mortal, that is Leda. He raped Leda. It was not only a rape. The result of the rape was Helen, and Helen created history. Because you remember that Helen, she became responsible for the Trojan War. And for your kind information, this Trojan War, it kept going for almost 10 years. And according to the one calculation, or according to the then calculations, this war, it took the toll of around one third of the then population of the world. I mean, 33% people of the world population, they were killed in this war. Though, so many regions are there. One of the regions may be, it may be in the apple of discord. If you remember the three goddesses, Aphrodite, Hera, and Athena, right? There was a contest, and the situation was the marriage of Peleus and Thetis. I hope you remember. Peleus and Thetis, they were the parents of Achilles, the greatest hero in the Trojan War, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
in this marriage ceremony, an apple was thrown among three goddesses. The three goddesses were Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite. And what was written on the apple? Callisto. 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 You can replace O with E in the end. That is a Greek word and it simply means to the most beautiful one. So it was a competition among the three goddesses, like who was the most beautiful. So the task to judge it was given to Zeus. Now, Zeus was not only a god, but he was a great manipulator also. And he knew very well that it would be impossible to decide one out of three women, because if he gives his favor to one, the rest of the two, they would have a fight with him. So finally, what he did, he gave the task to Prince Paris. I mean, now Prince Paris became the judge. So now he had to decide the most beautiful goddess of the world, right? Now all the three goddesses, they tried to tempt Paris. Hera said that if you judge me to be the fairest goddess, then I'll give you power, I'll give you knowledge, I'll give you kingdoms and everything. Okay. Then Athena, she said, if you judge me to be the fairest goddess, then I'll make you the wisest person on the earth. Okay. Then the third one, Aphrodite, she said, if you decide me or if you judge me to be the fairest woman, the fairest goddess, then I will give you the most beautiful woman on the earth. Prince Paris was tempted by the third goddess Aphrodite. Right? Now the rest of the two goddesses, they became angry with Prince Paris and they cursed him, and the curse was that Troy would be burnt. So the second cause, right?
Yes, sir.
And so many regions may be there. The other region may be the sin of Atreus. Sin of Atreus. Atreus, he was the father of Aegisthus. And if you remember, Aegisthus, in collaboration with Clytemnestra, murdered Agamemnon. When Agamemnon came back from the Trojan War, after having a victory over his opponents, then he was murdered by his wife in collaboration with Aegisthus. I mean, Aegisthus and Clytemnestra, they both became lovers in the absence of, the Greek warriors. So that may be another region. And the sacrifice of Iphigenia on the mountain of Olives, it may be another region. So what I am trying to say is that if I ask you one question, like what is the cause of the Trojan War? So you can give so many answers. One of you can say that this is the apple of discord. The other can say that the rape of leader. The other can give a different interpretation. So your individual utterances would be in the category of parole. And remember, every parole would remain dependent on a system, on a structure. And here the system is the total Greek myth. Here, the structure is the total Greek myth. So, parole always remains dependent on lang, because lang is a structure, lang is a system. So here, the rape of leader, it is a parole, because for this rape you can have individual answers, you can have individual utterances. I mean, you can give answers in a way which pleases you, but for every interpretation, you will have to remain dependent on a system, on a structure. That is the Greek myth, and that is working here as long. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I think it's enough
Yes,
for
sir.
today because it's a bit complex. So the rest I'll complete in the next lecture.
Sure, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
But please, be honest in your utterances. Is everything clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Because on the online mode, I cannot be simpler than this one. And if you really want to have it in the most simplified form, then you need to come to the classroom, and that I feel is not possible for you right now.
बट सर वी वांट टू हम तो आना चाहते हैं सर क्लास में
अरे रहने दो, क्यों मेरा दिमाग खराब कर रहे हो सुबह सुबह? तुम क्लास में आना चाहते
सच्ची में सर
कौन नहीं है? कौन बोल रही है आना चाहते हैं,
सर
बताना।
मैं नीलम नीलम सर नीलम
अच्छा, नीलम बोल रही हो तुम।
यस सर
सी आई कांट टीच 3 or 4 स्टूडेंट्स। चलो छोड़ो, अब इस बातों का कोई मतलब नहीं है। My purpose is to clarify the things to you, and if we can do it with the help of this technology, I think you remain at your home. My only concern is, whatever I have told you today, is it clear to you?
अब अगर
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
So,
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
sure, sir.
Yes,
so
sir.
today I have talked about what is the simple fact in structuralism, what is structuralism. I mean, everything is not cleared yet, but I have focused on the sign, the signifier, and the signified. And the other thing is, language, long, and parole.
Parole.
So, if you understand these things, much disturbance is there. So, please. So these 5 or 6 terms are very crucial to understand, structuralism. So the rest I'll explain either on Tuesday or on Wednesday. Which time? Around, let it be 6, please.
Okay, sir.
ओके सर
ठीक है. Anything
Okay,
else you
sir.
want to know?
No, sir. Thank you.
सर
Okay
एक्चुअली वी
then.
हैव क्वेरीज वन
Yes,
क्वेरी
yes,
सर
yes, 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 yes,
सर
yes.
एक्चुअली एक इंफॉर्मेशन आई है कि हमें फॉर्म फिल करना है इसका एग्जाम्स का हमारे जो प्री कोर्स एग्जाम है सर उसके लिए तो सर वो हमें सबमिट कहाँ करवाना पड़ेगा उसके पहले ऑनलाइन फॉर्म भरना है और फिर कह रहे हैं कि आपको यूनिवर्सिटी आके सबमिट कराना पड़ेगा या तो कॉलेज में या फिर यूनिवर्सिटी में सर ये इसमें कंफ्यूजन है सर
Right now, you don't have anything to do with any college. If you have to submit the hard copy of the form, I think you will have to submit it to the Department of English only.
ओके सर
So right now you are not, you are not enrolled for your PhD program. So how can you go to different colleges? You are not the part of colleges right now.
ओके ओके
At the
सर
present time, you are the very part of this department only.
ओके सर ओके सर थैंक यू सो मच सर
Okay. Okay. Good day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Good
sir.
day, sir.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
sir.
very much, sir.